A very good morning to all our viewers. Happy New Year and welcome to ACFIM Talks first edition of 2022. My name is Abel Eseru and I will be today's moderator. We shall be discussing on whether the proposed change from presidential system to the parliamentary system can fix the democratic challenges in Uganda. We do know that since the proclamation of the 1995 constitution, Ugandans have been electing the head of state using the presidential system. But this could change if the proposal by the NRM Transformers Cadres Association is passed by Parliament to switch from the presidential system to the parliamentary system, where they want members of Parliament and local government chairpersons to elect the head of state. Today, we are joined by two guests. We have Professor Ndebesa Mwambutsya, who is a political historian and lecturer at Makerere University, as well as a celebrated scholar. And then we also have Prisca Wanyenya. Prisca Wanyenya is a parliamentary journalist and a member of the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, and she holds a bachelor in mass communication, majoring in public relations and minored in economics. She is passionate about human rights, accountability, and respect of rule of law. You're welcome, Prisca.
Thank you, Abel.
And also, Professor, you're welcome to today's edition of ACFIM Talks.
Thank you, and good morning, listeners and viewers out there.
Professor, I will start with you. The parliamentary system is not new to Uganda's politics. We do know that it was last used during the 1980 elections. What is your take on the proposed change being fronted by NRM Transformers Cadres Association?
Thank you. A parliamentary system is not necessarily uniform all over, but it has got certain characteristics. One is that in a parliamentary system, the citizens do not elect the head of the executive, whether president or parliament or prime minister. Instead, he or she is elected by parliament. So the citizens or the voters elect members of parliament, and normally the party that has got the majority in parliament actually fronts its chairman or president or whoever, by whatever designation, to be the head of the executive. In that case, you have got certain challenges, as much as you could also have challenges in the presidential system. Now, when the 1995 Constitution was being made, and I happened to have the privilege of being a participant as a researcher, in the first preamble statement, it says, considering the history of Uganda, blah, 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 blah. Now, considering the history of Uganda in this respect, it was considering that the president or the prime minister, in this case in Uganda, has dominated the politics of Uganda and has had no checks and balances, and has not had clear and effective accountability to the citizens, political accountability, that is. And therefore, since in a parliamentary system, citizens have no way of holding their president accountable, at least through elections, therefore, everybody should elect the president, everybody who is eligible to vote. Secondly, in a parliamentary system, there are certain voters who are completely disenfranchised. For example, in the 1980 elections, which was under the parliamentary system, there were, I think, 17 constituencies which were unopposed. Now, the moment a constituency is unopposed, it presupposes there won't be elections in that constituency. So you can imagine 17 constituencies in Uganda were completely rendered useless in as far as elections were concerned. They did not participate in elections since the members of parliament passed through and opposed, and it was a parliamentary system, so they were left out. Therefore, I think in this case, the parliamentary system is not suitable for Uganda. And the Constituent Assembly in 1994-95 found it fit, actually, to change from a parliamentary system to a presidential system precisely because of some of the reasons I have enumerated above. While we are proposing to go back to a parliamentary system, definitely it cannot be because we want to hold the presidency accountable. It has other hidden agendas, like we have amended the constitution before with hidden agendas. Definitely they were hidden agendas. There is no doubt about that. I can testify where it involved the age limit. In the age limit, I had the privilege actually to address the parliamentary committee, the legal parliamentary committee. And I did put it to them because they were urging that they were amending the constitution because the constitution was rigid and the articles were rigid, and therefore they wanted to make it flexible, which was wrong, which was not true, which was just a justification, because in the same article, there were also similar articles like the one of the requirement that one would have to have HAC in order to be a presidential candidate, meaning it was also rigid. So, therefore, those who are proposing the parliamentary system, it can't be because they want to put what is wrong right. Actually, they want to put what is right wrong. That is my view, and anybody else who wants to think that parliamentary system will fix the challenges of democracy in Uganda, let him or her come up with the reasons why. And so far, what I have read in the public media and social media, these so-called cadres did not tell the public why they wanted to change from the parliamentary system. Maybe the journalist who is now part of this discussion can tell us the reasons they advanced, and we see whether those reasons were for advancing democracy or advancing self-interest of some members of the general public, or those politicians, the political elites, or indeed the beneficiary in this case, who would be a presidential candidate who would not be required to go and campaign in the population. But quickly, I can also point out that presidential campaigns have been part and parcel of political education. It is an occasion for political education to the public. It is also an occasion for selling presidential ideas and policies. Thirdly, it is also an occasion, that is a presidential election, it is an occasion for the population to look at a candidate who is going to be the chief executive of the country, to understand his ideas, but also to look at his emotional intelligence, to look at his cognitive intelligence, to look at and weigh and evaluate his relational intelligence. So you are going to have a bunch of a few individuals who are political elites in parliament, who are pursuing their individual interests, elect a president whom the population has not tested. Now, they would want to say that in some countries they have parliamentary systems and they have functioned. Those countries are not like us. Let's use a British system where a parliamentary system has worked and has functioned for some time. There, they have got mechanisms of holding the chief executive, the prime minister, accountable. First of all, they have a monarchy. They have a king or a queen who also at least has powers that he can share with the prime minister. Two, the parliament there is so strong that it can hold the prime minister accountable. I think just a few days, 2 days ago, you heard how they were tearing him off the parliament in the question time, that he was even ridiculous, and they could do that and go scot-free. Three, they have got a party that works, that functions. The party can also hold the chief executive accountable. In Uganda, in our history, the parties have no control over the chief executive. In 1980, actually, when a certain, I think the late Temerondwa wanted to contest with Obote in the position of chairperson of the party or president of the UPC, I remember Obote telling Temerondwa that if he wants, let him go and form his own party. In other words, Obote thought the UPC was his party. Even under Museveni regime, nobody could contest the chairmanship of the party because, for example, Amama was tried and he was told to get off the party. Therefore, we don't have checks and balances. The only window of hope has been the population. Now you are saying even that window of hope where the population would elect a president should be removed so that only the members of parliament, who in most cases are bribed, can now elect the president, choose the president for this country, which would be very unfortunate. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Prisca, you've just had Professor sharing his views about the proposed change from the presidential system to the parliamentary system. And I know you as a journalist, you've been covering some of the incidents that have been happening in parliament, and you've seen how some of these parliamentarians behave. And I don't know whether we really have a strong parliament that can really vote for a head of state without being bribed and being coerced. So do you think, in your own view, do you think Uganda is ready for change of system from presidential system to the parliamentary system? And do you think this new proposal can really cure the democratic challenges Uganda is facing?
All right. Thanks so much for hosting me once again, and Happy New Year to our viewers. And during the professor's submission, he hinted on reading, following this topic on social media and both other media platforms, and he asked me to inform him of some of the reasons that the other group the Kada camp is giving. We have not yet found a name for them. But what I know is their argument is that if we go through the parliamentary system, the country is going to be in position to save money that it spends in elections. That is their argument. They are citing the over 20 cars that electoral commission procures for the presidential candidates, the money they spend on security for the presidential candidates, printing of the ballot papers. So they think that instead of printing about, I think the last elections we had about 15 million voters, something like that. So instead of print 15 million ballot papers, you're going to print about 500, the ones that are equivalent to the MPs in Parliament. So that is basically that the country is going to be in position to save money that we spend so much. But another thing I want to inform the professor is that even the people at Chadon or the NRM Secretariat, the staff, they are against this proposal because they are saying the only time they are in position to money is when the president is on trail. So now this parliamentary system is coming to take away their soul bread. So that is, so while the losers are saying we are going to save money, the other camp is saying, no, this is the only time that we are in position to save money. And that can be attested even by the journalists who cover the president, because from what I know is the journalists who covered the president during the campaign in 2021, on a daily expenditure, the per diem, they were being given 150 for accommodation, and that is the journalist. And when the president was announced winner in Nambole, Chambogo, the journalists were called and they went to Rachtura, and each of them got 30 million as a token. So
can you repeat that one? How much?
30 million each journalist.
How many
You see
journalists
that?
were there?
I'm not so sure, because what I know is they give you a call. If you don't make it to Rajtula that very day, you lose out. Even in
30
2016,
million shillings
yes,
to
30
bribe
million.
journalists.
No, it was a thank you
It was
for
a
covering.
bribe.
I don't
It
know.
was a bribe.
So
Don't
that is
distort
how
information.
that is how they termed it. But it was
Okay,
a
but it
thank
was
you.
a bribe.
Yes. So now you see how this topic is becoming tricky, because the people at Chadondo are also against it. Now the journalists that you think are going to supposed to report for you impartially, they are also going to lose out on that. Of course, the State House has its own team of journalists, because if they find out that you're kind of critical to the government, they tend to follow up our articles. So if they find that you are in the business of writing articles that are critical to the government, you don't make it to the list. So the information I'm giving you is what some of the colleagues what they told me who covered. I was not on the presidential. So on the question of why they are saying it's going to save us, because we know, I think the issue was allocated over 1 trillion for the 2021 elections, and you know the ACFIM also did a study, and they reported that the president alone spent around 1 trillion during last year's campaigns, and they also had a breakdown of what the other presidential candidates had. So I tend to think they are capitalizing on the poverty rates in Uganda. And trust me, if they sell that card of we are going to save money, and they tell someone in the local area, because they are going to go on a campaign trail to consult or campaign about this parliamentary system, and they are going to tell someone in Nakapiripirishi down there that we are going to save money about 1 trillion or whatever it is, and we are going to bring that money and reconstruct a road. Automatically, when somebody hears that, who has never touched 500,000 or 1 million, will say yes. What is the use? Let the MPs vote for us. The president. So I don't know how the opposition is going to counter this argument, but when you use the poverty, when you capitalize on the poverty rates in Uganda, I tend to think the other side is already having it. And there are people who have, when you follow the debate, some people are saying we have, today is exactly 1 year when we went to the poll. Some people are saying, we are rushing into politics. We are politicizing the thing. Can we give the regime time to work? And they are thinking these are just mere fears. But you realize that this is how age limit started, because when the age limit came like almost in the same period, after 1 year after elections, and when Nankabra, the former government chief whip, her argument was they better bring this thing of age limit early, so that they pass it and they give the voters 2 years within which to cool their anger. So by the time they go back to the polls, and you tend to realize that worked. So that is the reason as to why no one should ignore this debate and think we are rushing into politics and the whole fiasco. So what of course the opposition, for them, they are thinking that you've heard of the Muhozi project, because they think he's incapable of everything, so they are giving him a smooth landing. But I'm my only what I'm only looking forward to is how is the opposition going to counter the whole argument, and what backup plan they have. It's something that I'm looking forward to, because now we have seen what the ruling government has, but we have not seen what the opposition is going to do.
Prisca, let me come. Don't you think the voters themselves will feel it, that if they give their rights of voting to the MPs, whom some of them already say that they go there to eat, and not represent their own views. They go there to represent their selfish views. Do you think the voters will really listen to the proponents of this proposal, even if they go back on ground and start campaigning and advocating for it by telling voters that this will help us save a lot of money, which shall be transferred for service delivery? Do you think the voters will listen to such kind of arguments from the proponents of this system?
The voters will have no choice but to listen, because you look at the literacy rates. Recently, I saw someone on Twitter mention about discussing about the education rates in Uganda, and he revealed that Uganda has about 1,500 professors only. I'm not so sure what the professor knows about that figure, but I found it strange, because he's saying that when the population is not highly educated, like for instance, people like in Canada, about 85% have a degree. The rate in Uganda is a bit lower. So we are looking at a country of 43, 42 million people having 1,500 professors, people with doctorates. So as long as the literacy rates are still low, the ruling government will achieve all its objectives, because the people who are in position to kind of to look through the policies, the few lecturers, the professors, or the degree holders, they are the few. The majority of the voters are the people down there. Without most of them, they have probably the primary dropouts, secondary dropouts. So, well, the people here in Kampala will make noise. Kampala wakiso mukono, but Kabong, Kisoro, and who are not educated, what do they know? Because if you tell someone that if we don't hold elections for the president, we are going to save money and we build for a road and we build for a hospital, there is nothing else that they are going to do for them. The wastage that they are going to talk about, we talk about here in Kampala, they don't feel the pitch of the wastage. So, but when you ask the question of whether the parliamentary system can fix the democratization challenge, you have to first of all define what are the democratization challenges in Uganda. Because even if these guys are talking about saving money, but you know that one of the biggest issues is the bloated government and the administration. So if their intention was to really save money, you know where to look first. You don't have to take away the rights of 42 million people just for you to save money. Yet you know that our bloated parliament and the bloated administration, generally the whole of it, that is what. But so their intentions really, you really see the ill motive and the selfishness in their intentions from the word go. Oh, he's muted.
Thank you so much, Professor. Now I want to bring you on board, Professor. Among the issues that are intended to be reformed by the proposal is the proponents are saying is rigging of elections, commercialization of politics. You've just had Prisca share that some of the officials from the NRM secretariat and also the journalists are not happy with this thing, because they know it's one of the way the presidential system is one of the way they can use as an opportunity to make money when the president is moving around. So do you think that by us, if at all this proposal is passed by Parliament, do you think it can help us address those issues of election rigging and commercialization of politics?
Thank you. Before I even talk about that, I can see that this proposal is from government. They may not say directly that they are the ones who have mooted it, but I think like before the age limit and the term limit, it has come from government, but they have used the direct way of putting it on table. It is just like in the past when we used to look after goats. in the countryside there, if a big boy wanted to abuse an adult somewhere, he would just sit down and hide in the bush, in the grass, and tell the young boy to touch his face and look at that person, and then the big boy would abuse the man, and that man would come and punish the young boy who was standing up and touching his face and looking at the other person. So the government has used the so-called cadres. Now, on the question, on your question as to repeat it again exactly. Hello? I don't hear you.
I'm saying, do you think if this new proposal, which is being fronted by the Transformers Cadre Association, is passed by Parliament, it will help us, it will help the country address the issue on the issue of vote rigging and commercialization of politics?
Of course it will not. I don't think that the presidential system is the one which brought about commercialization. For your information and the information of the listeners out there, commercialization of politics has been more under the NRM regime than in the past. In the past, of course, there were other challenges of democracy. We can't say they were more democratic, but you cannot accuse the past of having been involved in question of commercialization. Commercialization will be there, presidential or parliamentary, as long as it is not addressed by law and by the governing group. Because the money will be spent anyway. It will be spent on parliamentary elections, but two, it will also be spent on bribing the members of parliament. We know that they will be bribed one way or the other. So that one will not cure the question of using money during the elections. The competition will still be there, only that it has been reduced a few. So rather than spending the money so that it can even percolate and be spread nationally to the citizens, it is now going to be concentrated on bribing and paying the members of parliament so that they vote accordingly. So that is not a solution. Secondly, when you don't subject the president to the national accountability, to citizens' accountability, to accountability from below, then that means it is going to increase the levels of corruption around the office of the president. Since he will not be accountable to the people, he or she can only be accountable to parliament, and therefore can bribe parliament and weaken the system of administration. Therefore, when you weaken democracy in the sense that you remove the population from holding the governors accountable by removing them from having a vote for the chief executive, then you will increase corruption and it will still undermine the whole issue of governance and political accountability and even financial accountability. The reason, by the way, that is being advanced is totally wrong. As my colleague has pointed out, why not reduce on the number of cabinet ministers, and why not reduce on the number of MPs in order to reduce the costs? Why not even reduce on others, on other elective posts? By the way, it is said Uganda has the highest per capita of elected members of parliament and councils and whatever have you. And all these are costly to the nation. Now, as long as the other ones remain, you are not reducing on the cost. And by the way, the question of cost is just a legitimization of the proposal. There is nothing like they are bothered about the cost. That is not true. But if you don't hold those in power accountable also, the cost will still remain higher. So cost effectiveness or cost saving is just an excuse for what they want. What is wanted is that the chief executive, the president or the prime minister, whatever designation they will give that person, is merely to make him or her sail through without major hurdles and not be accountable to the population, but and not even accountable to parliament, because The history of our parliament is a history of no accountability to parliament. In fact, we have had a history, if I can bring in some history here, the only parliament and speaker which stood its ground and held the executive accountable was the Uganda National Consultative Council under the chairmanship of Edward Rugumayo, who actually, because of that, was removed by Muwanga because he didn't want. He was replaced by a certain, I think, Wabwire or somebody like that, who was also actually removed by Muwanga, and they put there a certain Butajira, Francis. So we have got a history of the parliament wanting to exercise its powers and being interfered with by the executive. So the democracy a country has is determined by the history it has. For example, if we can go back to our democracy system that originated from UK, the UK parliament is somehow independent because of its history. There was a time parliament in UK revolted against the king. In fact, the king was beheaded, and UK for about 6 years experimented with republicanism. Finally, they brought back the king, but on the terms of parliament. And from that time, parliament in UK has been independent of the executive because of its history. The king was beheaded, and the monarchy was removed, and it came back on the terms of parliament. Here in Uganda, parliament has been captured by the executive. There is parliamentary capture by the executive. One time President Museveni actually said it when they wanted to change the office of the president, to remove it from the parliamentary premises to give room for members of parliament. He told them, he told parliament, members of parliament, that are you aware that we captured you and you are still under captivity? What are you talking about? Now, in circumstances where parliament is under captivity, there is no way the parliamentary system will function in Uganda effectively to fix the democracy deficit that we do have. Instead, we are going to have a higher democracy deficit under parliamentary system.
Thank you so much, Professor and Prisca. Now we are going to go for a short break, then we shall return.
Something is wrong. No one is coming to me. Nobody is minding about me. No one is yearning to see me. Hey? What is the problem?
Then we should go before they come.
Are you mad? I changed all this money for them. I want them to ask. I want to give them all this money, but no one is minding. Nobody. I changed all this for them. This is all money for them.
What should I do? How do I kind of...
You go there and tell them to. You go. No. You just go. Talk to them one by one.
Hey, what has happened?
Exactly. Thank you for coming. You know, this whole place has changed. What is the matter?
What is it exactly?
No one is yearning to see me. Nobody is minding. No one is asking for money. Nothing.
Oh, is that what you mean? No. Honorable, let me tell you this.
Yes.
Things changed.
Changed?
Yes. As we, your campaigning managers, we agreed that we need parliamentarians, our honorable MPs, who present issues in parliament.
So is that what you decided?
That's what we decided.
The desire of any progressive democracy is to have citizens who focus on issue-based politics and not transactional politics, which suffocates representative democracy.
Contribute today at www.politicalfinanceafrica.org/donate.
Welcome back from that break. We are discussing about whether the change from the presidential system to the parliamentary system can fix Uganda's democratization challenges. I want to now bring you, Prisca, on board. You are a journalist in Parliament, and you witnessed one of the controversial bills, controversial amendments, the removal of the presidential age limit, which some members of the opposition really fought very hard. They never wanted it to pass, but at the end it passed. Now we are seeing another proposal being fronted by the so-called NRM Transformers Cadres Association. What do you think is meant to benefit from this proposal, and who do you think is meant to lose from this proposal?
Of course, the very first people that are going to lose out on this proposal are the Ugandans, as the professor has said, because if it is approved, they are not going to have the powers to hold their president accountable. And when you look at the Transformers, the team that is bringing the proposal, most of them lost in the general elections. We initially thought it was kind of their bargaining chip. They wanted to use this to meet the president. But now, by the look of things, it's coming. This proposal is coming from government, as has been the case before. They are playing the same script, recycling as they always do. So it's just a few people, but now it's going to be a tough one to see how it's going to play out, because now you see the people who have been getting money from the election campaigns, then the people who are interested, so they will have to weigh between if you support the thing in future, you come out as you're likely to get a ministerial position when you back this thing during this time. So it's going to be a risky option for them the people who are going to back it up. And we know that even within the party itself, there are people who are fed up of the old man. And already we have seen the powers, we have witnessed the power struggles also in the first family, because there is a camp that is fronting Mohozi, there is a camp that is fronting Odrek. And I was also surprised recently that even Salim Saleh is interested in the presidency. And of course, when I heard the news, I asked myself, where is he going to get the papers? Because from what we know is he's a P4 dropout.
But he has A level.
Yeah, so that is the thing that they. So when
He qualifies,
when
he
we
has
asked
A level.
ourselves, where are we going to? Yeah, so someone said, what if the man has been reading when we don't know, and he has the papers?
He has.
I think this struggle is going to. So this struggle is going to be more dramatic, more tough than the age limit, because there is already a power struggle within the NRM. There is power struggle within the first family. I really don't know what the future holds for this country, but it's something that I'm telling you, even me as a journalist, I'm even confused. I don't know what to make up of this, because at the end of the day, the only person who will benefit is the person who is going to emerge as the winner. But it's now going to give. It's also going to give the MPs a bargaining chip. For them, they will set a very high price for the president, and they say if you want us to vote this person or your son, they are going to set a very high price for him. And from what, given that, because they will know that the chances of them returning to parliament are going to be slim after voting whoever they do. So they will set a price that will make sure they compensate for the time they will be out of it. So one of the people to benefit from this are the MP. They are going to really invest a lot of to invest. Probably the money he has been spending on people among that way. Professor, comparing parliament vis-a-vis our parliament here. A scenario happened recently where the First Lady summoned Parliament to Kololo. And when the Deputy Speaker was the first person to talk about the issue, review the summons before the chambers of Parliament, and the opposition members protested it, I think the speaker himself got a phone call, and he returned the next day. You could see someone who is afraid of
I think we have lost, but
there is some interruption.
Yeah, I think we have lost Prisca, but as she was just sharing with us her views. Professor, have just been hearing from her, and we do know that although some are portraying that this proposal is being fronted by some persons within the NRM, but they don't want to come out to publicly show that they are the ones trying to front this. Do you think this proposal, as it is, of making sure that the MPs are the ones that elect the president and the members of the chairperson of the local government councils, do you think such a move can be supported by President Museveni, who knows that by giving his fate to a few individuals, it's more riskier than instead of allowing all Ugandans to vote? Do you think he can support such a move?
If he doesn't support it, it will not get through. Because let nobody in the NRM tell me that they have got any powers of decision making beyond the president. If I can remind some of you who may not have been old enough to know what happened when we were shifting from movement system to multi-party system, the NRM party set up a committee to go and deliberate on the question of whether we should go multi-party or continue with the movement system. The committee of the party went and sat and concluded and wrote a report and went and made their report in Chankwanzi saying that we should continue with the movement system. It was overwhelming with a few members like Bidan Sari who wrote a minority report that we should go multi-party system. Now, the president stood up and said, I associate myself with a minority. That is the Bidan Sari group. And everybody in the movement who had supported the continuation of the movement system also said, we support multi-party system. That shows that the party has no backbone of making a decision which way to go. When the president says this, they will follow. So when the president supports it, which I suspect he is going to do, then everybody is going to go and support it because he is a beneficiary, he is an incumbent, and it will save him from the hassle and tumble of going up throughout the country, conversing for political support. All he needs to do is get a telephone number, sit down on his chair, and ring every member of parliament who will have passed through, especially the NRM party members. He rings you at around 2 a.m. in the night and says, are you supporting me or are you not supporting me? And you can imagine when the president who is rated to appoint ministers, is ringing here a member of parliament who expected to be appointed a minister and says, are you supporting me or are you not supporting me? And definitely everybody will answer the call and say, we are supporting you. And there are benefits accruing from supporting himself or his candidate. So the whole thing will rotate around what the president will have supported. And I can see him supporting the whole idea because he is a beneficiary. But let me quickly go to who will be the loser, which you asked my colleague. The loser will be democracy. The democracy deficit gap will widen. Two, once you have that democracy deficit and there is no political accountability to the citizens, it will weaken the governance system in Uganda. And gradually, there will be some people who will be frustrated. The more you continue frustrating people, the more you have polarization in the country, and the more one day I want to warn seriously the population in Uganda, we shall have this country disintegrate. There is nothing like this country cannot disintegrate as long as we continue with the politics of opportunism. You know, recently in Ethiopia, they had a ruling party under Ndebesa Mwambutsya. It sat down on the rights of citizens. It disenfranchised the citizens to the extent that in 2005, the opposition lost all the seats and the ruling party got 100% in parliament. Mark you, TPLF got 100% in parliament. So it was as if it was so popular, but the popularity was not there. It is that the party controlled the vote of the people, the decision of the population. So they got 100% in 2005. In 2015, sorry. In 2019, 4 years later, the party disintegrated. It was actually disbanded. And TPLF core group cadres went to the bush to fight the current government. In fact, the prime minister who succeeded Ndebesa Mwambutsya was so disturbed by not being recognized by that ruling clique, which had controlled the Ethiopian politics for 30 years, he resigned. This new prime minister came in, dissolved the parliament, dissolved the party. A new party was founded. The other core hardliners of the TPLF went to the bush. Ethiopia is now almost at the verge of disintegrating. And you are talking about a party that got 100%. So merely saying that NRM is getting big percentage is not a reflection of the political support in the country. We can have disintegration. This is not to say that NRM may not win elections. That is beside the point. But this political gerrymandering in the interests of individuals, self-interest, political elite, can make this country disintegrate. I have to warn, let nobody say that historians like me have not warned this country. This country can disintegrate. I've heard quite often people say that Uganda has existed and will always exist. It is going nowhere. Let them tell me where Yugoslavia is. Yugoslavia has disintegrated after Marshal Tito, who had been in power for more than 30 years, died. Yugoslavia is now 6 independent states. Where is the Soviet Union? It disintegrated. Where is Sudan? It disintegrated. Ethiopia is about to disintegrate. There is no Somalia after Siad Barre had been there for a long time. There is almost no state to talk about in Congo after Mobutu had been there for more than 30 years. Let the politicians, the political elites in Uganda be warned that this political gerrymandering and just laughing the matters of governance casually and say we shall win them. After all, we have the money, we have the maje, as this lady Anita did say, we have the maje, and therefore we shall win. By the way, she lost. Where did the maje go when she lost the post? Let Ugandans be careful. Let's not joke about and play around the issues of national governance and just pretend that everything is okay, this country can disintegrate. It has all the signs of disintegrating unless we change our minds and stop politics of opportunism.
Thank you so much, Professor Prisca. Now I want to bring you on. You are a journalist in Parliament, and we know that ACFIM reports have highlighted that members of Parliament spend, if it's a minimum, it's about 500 million Uganda shillings to go to Parliament, and we see most of them are indebted. Where does the current proposed system of parliamentarism leave them in terms of if they go back to their constituents? Don't you think this is likely to escalate their cost of campaigns?
Of course now the stakes are higher for MPs, and I to the few that we have talked to, of course most of them don't want, especially the ones in the ruling government, they are not open they are giving us the obvious answers. Let's wait for the formal communication for the bill to come here and everything. But when you ask them, some of them tell you switch off your mic, and I tell you because they're like, we are actually afraid that we are going to spend more than we have been spending because the stakes are going to be higher. For heaven's sake, you're the person who is going to vote for let me say, one of the people, the MPs in Wakiso have the highest number of voters, people like the Semujus. You have close to a million voters in your constituency. So you're carrying the weight. You're going to vote the president for over a million people. So when you go back to the constituency, the stakes are going to be higher. And the MPs say that now the voters are going to say, after all, after you're going to reclaim back that money when the voting for the president comes. So that even the MPs themselves are afraid because they know that they are asking themselves, is the money I'm going to inject in going to be worth it? Will I reclaim the money back? So even when I think they will only be relaxed after they go through the elections at the parliamentary level. But when you go back to the warning that a professor has made, you see most times people, there is this argument on the remarks people say that Ugandans are not angry enough. That if we were angry, we would be doing something more than that. Instead of merely talking, that we will do something more. It's something that people try to provoke people, like to capitalize on the frustrations that Ugandans have. That is why when the people who have studied politics, like the professor have done, have spent a lot of time, read so many books. I don't know how many books the professor reads in a day, and he has given us the examples of Yugoslavia, Somalia, Ethiopia, and everything. These are the people who know it. But even when he sounds that warning, there are people who are going to tell him he's just scaremongering, and because they're like, if really Ugandans were angry, they would be doing more than the talking that the professor is doing. So I don't know how the professor reacts to such arguments, and saying, I'm wondering, can I ask the professor whether you Ugandans are angry enough, or at what point shall we be angry enough? And if he's giving us the percentage of the anger among Ugandans on 100, where have we reached? Because the people who are usually throwing the bait at us, they are saying we are not angry enough. At what level are we as Ugandans angry? I want to know from the professor who has studied political science for a long time. And what does it tell you as someone, and the people who mostly the people of the ruling regime are the ones who throw that line, that we are not angry because we would be doing more than. And if you try to do something to show your anger, they are going to label you a hooligan. So, but on the, because I know that our time is running out, on my concluding remarks, there are people who are taking this thing as just politics, but I really see it as happening. Some people have argued that that the president will not support it because he wants to go through an election and show the international community that he gets that he held an election, a legitimate election for. But from what I've been about 3 has gone through. Probably I should even go back and start writing my title. But there are people who are skeptical and saying, no, he can't do this to us. But to the listeners out there, I'm like, I think just open up your mind for anything that is coming in the near future for this. But above all, I think just look out for your life, because the people we lost in November still hurt me. I don't think we just look out for your safety, because what I know is this: there might be some bloodshed come when this proposal comes on board.
Thank you, Prisca. Now, Professor, I'm going to give you to give your concluding remarks in the next 3 minutes, but as you conclude, I want you also to tackle this proposal being fronted by DP. DP is also fronting for a change in the electoral system from a first post or a winner takes it all to a proportional representative system, whereby political parties front their candidates, and then citizens vote for political parties, and the percentage of the votes gotten by the political parties are the ones they allocate to those political parties to fill in the candidates. Do you think this would be the best way for Uganda moving forward, as you conclude, and also as you respond to Prisca's question of whether Ugandans are really angry or they are yet to be angry, and at what stage do they get angry?
Thank you. I don't think we shall have time to exhaustively discuss those important questions, but on the question of anger, I want the listener out there to know that anger is not necessarily always negative. There is positive anger and negative anger. And even in the biblical story, you find the holy anger. There was the holy anger of Jesus when he went and found his temple was being abused, and he got angry. So that was holy anger. So similarly, there can be transformative anger. Anger towards injustice, aimed at removing injustice and fairness in society. That would be positive anger. But when that anger is not properly channeled, and it is bottled up, and it is not well mobilized so that it becomes transformative anger, it can end up being anarchical anger. And that's where you find when some societies become so angry, but they are not so organized and they have been bottled up, they end up having anarchy in society. So anger is good and bad, and it is good when it is for social justice, and it is bad when it is promoting and preserving a privilege. So that's what I can say. But gradually people are going to be angry and frustrated, and in a manner that they are not organized, and we shall have anarchy. Coming back at proportional representation. Proportional representation is also a proposal or a system that has come to cure some deficits of democracy and nation building, especially nation building, in the sense that when the party comes up with a party line and people vote the party, then the member of parliament who is elected does not have to be sectarian to elect people or to work for people of his own area. However, it has got its own challenges itself, because sometimes the ruling party, when it is so powerful and members of parliament are paying only allegiance to the leader and to the party, it also disenfranchises the population. the population will now have no say on who is going to be their leader. Their leader will only be coming from the party secretariat or the party committee. So it has got its positives and negatives, and it has to be weighed and discussed. But it was mooted during the CA the deliberations, but the current government and the politicians rejected it. Otherwise, it could go a long way to reduce sectarianism, to reduce this business of saying that you cannot be an MP where you are not born. That is its advantage. But it has also got its challenges of disenfranchising the population from directly electing their member of parliament. It's a matter of having proportional representation mixed with or balanced with direct elections. So you can say, for example, that constituencies will be under proportional representation. That is the counties, but like for example, the women or the districts can be elected under proportional representation, so that we have a mix of the winner takes it all and proportional representation. It's a complex issue, but it can also be addressed to address the questions of the nation building deficit and democracy challenges. By the way, the most important issue at hand in a developing country like Uganda is not primarily democracy, although democracy is important, it is nation building. But you can build nation building using democracy or some other methods of elections and coming up with the leadership of the country. Let's open it up and debate it, but unless we debate it soberly, when we have the country at heart, not because we are voting according to our stomachs. Let's vote, let's debate with our heads, not our stomachs. But if we use our stomachs and not our heads, this country is rated to disintegrate when the anarchical anger, not transformative anger, reaches a certain boiling point and it spreads, and the country is engulfed in anarchy. Because we are a developing country, we are not yet a nation state. We are still trying to build a nation state, but we are building it based on unprincipled values of self-interest, self-promotion, not national interest. That is the challenge I have, but proportional representation is another debate which can also have another hour of debate. I thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Professor Mwambutsya Ndebesa, and also Prisca Wanyenya, for your time and sharing your views with our audience. We have come to one end of this show. We want to appreciate all the audience that has been outside there following us from the start. We shall have another edition of ACFIM Talks next Friday, same time. We want to thank you all, but let's continue with the engagements. Let's continue debating. Let's debate using our heads, as Professor said, but not our stomachs, so that we can have a progressive democracy in Uganda. Thank you so much.